Tonight, singer, actor, activist, remembering legendary entertainer Harry Belafonte. An inspiring talent who broke down barriers.
Oh, island in the sun.
And a relentless champion for human rights.
He really wanted that to be his legacy.
Thank you.
Joe Biden's bid for a second presidential term.
We now have to finish the job, but there's more to do.
Setting the stage for a potential rematch.
We will defeat Joe Biden in 2024.
Plus, the orange cone crackdown.
It's like flowers. They come with the spring and the warm weather.
As pylons litter the urban landscape, one Canadian city battles a seasonal eyesore.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening, everyone. He shared his mesmerizing voice with millions around the world. But Harry Belafonte is also being remembered tonight for lending that voice to some of the most significant human rights issues of our time. A value he once said his mother instilled in him as a young boy.
She would say to me, never go to bed at night knowing that you have spent a day in which you have done nothing to try to change injustice.
Belafonte was Martin Luther King Jr.'s friend, repeatedly using his own money to bail King and other activists out of jail during the civil rights movement, a commitment to the pursuit of equality he took outside his own borders.
Come, Mr. Tallyman.
And he smashed barriers as the King of Calypso. The 1956 album was top of the charts for 31 weeks. CTV's Joe Makashon on the legacy of a musical legend.
It became the anthem of the ages, introducing generations to the name Harry Belafonte. Born in Harlem to Jamaican parents, Belafonte gained the nickname King of Calypso for his take on traditional Caribbean folk music. He was also a gifted actor.
Cut that out.
Seen here in Carmen Jones, one of Hollywood's first movies featuring an all-black cast. Belafonte was awarded a Tony for his work on Broadway and an Emmy, as well as numerous Grammy Awards.
Sad to say I'm on my way.
This man with the smooth, silky voice used it to fight for equality.
As artists and as human beings, we rejoice in the knowledge that human experience has no color.
A civil rights activist working alongside Dr. Martin Luther King, Belafonte helped organize the March on Washington in 1963. He counted among his friends Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu.
He was the first artist that I knew of that included social justice, not only as a part of his life, but as a part of his active career.
Belafonte was a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF and the driving force behind the famine relief effort, We Are the World.
Justice, simple, just justice. And I felt that since the earliest days of my real understanding of what it meant to be poor. Poverty clarified that for me.
We come from the mountain, living on the mountain.
Seen here at the memorial for Jim Henson, Belafonte worked with the Muppets creator to bring a message of hope and joy to children around the world.
So is life. Whoa, oh, so is life.
A man who will be remembered as an entertainer and activist, honored on the marquee at the Apollo Theater in Harlem today. Harry Belafonte was 96. Jill Makashon, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Harry Belafonte's influence was reflected today in a wide array of high-profile tributes. Oprah called him a trailblazer and hero. Colin Kaepernick was grateful for his lifetime of activism, and Barack Obama described him as a barrier-breaking legend who used his platform to lift others up. Obama's former running mate revealed he's going for a second term in the White House today, and that is setting the stage for a rematch between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, the current Republican frontrunner, in 2024. Here's CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin.
Thank you.
Get used to hearing this.
But there's more to do. So let's finish the job.
Joe Biden rallying union workers, touting new jobs, infrastructure, and making the case the battle for the nation's soul isn't over.
This is not a time to be complacent. That's why I'm running for re-election.
In a video announcing another campaign, images of the January 6th Capitol attack, Biden takes aim at MAGA Republicans he says will roll back rights and freedoms.
Dictating what health care decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love.
It's designed to convey movement and energy. And in a sense, it's designed to counteract the biggest problem that Biden faces, even within his own party, his age.
At 80, Biden's already the oldest president ever. Completing a second term puts him at 86.
But it's legitimate for people to raise issues about my age. And the only thing I can say is watch me.
And voters aren't thrilled about a political rerun, Biden versus Donald Trump, the leading Republican candidate who faces multiple criminal investigations.
I would prefer some totally different people.
It would be nice to kind of get out of the old male white patriarchy and into something else.
We're going to see a highly negative campaign because 2020 was, and our recent campaigns have been extremely vicious.
Trump didn't waste any time going on the attack.
We will defeat Joe Biden in 2024.
Republicans responding with this.
Border agents were overrun by a surge of 80,000 illegals yesterday.
All these images are fake, generated by artificial intelligence.
With no credible challenger, Biden is convinced as the only person who beat Trump, he can do it again, his biggest selling point to Democrats and skeptical voters. Omar?
All right, CTV's Joy Malbin in Washington, where the White House revealed today that the Taliban killed the organizer of the deadly suicide attack at Kabul's international airport in 2021. 13 American soldiers and nearly 170 Afghans died in the bombing that came as the Taliban took control of the country. The U.S. says the man killed was a senior leader of the Afghan affiliate of the Islamic State, which is an enemy of the Taliban. An unexpected new concern out of Sudan tonight, where the World Health Organization says a critical laboratory has been seized by armed fighters. The WHO calls it an extremely dangerous biological risk, since the lab contains diseases like polio, measles, and cholera. A shaky ceasefire is technically still in place, with hundreds of Canadians stuck inside the country, turning to Ottawa for help. CTV's Adrian Gobrio reports, and a warning, some of the images are disturbing.
A desperate race to escape Sudan is underway.
You hear the planes like swooshing by, like the missiles going over your head.
The bloodstained floors at this medical ward are the result of a bombing today, proof that while a 72-hour ceasefire has been declared, the deadly conflict hasn't stopped. Tonight, the federal government confirmed 570 Canadians inside Sudan have asked for immediate help to flee the country.
We have assets in the region. We're looking at doing direct airlifts of Canadians and dependents.
The Prime Minister giving no timeline, calling any rescue operation extremely difficult. The fighting broke out 11 days ago after a power-sharing agreement between the generals in charge of Sudan's armed forces and its paramilitary troops disintegrated.
Both are war criminals. In normal circumstances, they would be sanctioned. We can't sanction them because we need to talk to them.
The fighting has been concentrated near the capital of Khartoum. For any of the city's 6 million residents trying to flee, a grueling journey lays ahead.
The nearest points of exit, one is Port Sudan, which on a good day is 12 hours drive, and in the other direction up to the Egyptian border is a good 24 hours through the Sahara Desert.
Our neighbors to the north and south of us were both hit.
Canadian citizen Sophia Mustafa went to Sudan before the conflict to care for her mother and grandmother. Currently trapped inside their home near Khartoum and struggling to reach federal officials, she fears she may have to leave her grandmother, who's not a Canadian citizen, behind.
What are the choices you're facing right now?
So the choice is either to leave her behind here, my 90-year-old grandma, or to save ourselves, which is not exactly a choice. We have to stay put until they offer all of us a way out.
Mustafa says her family only has 5 days of food left. Banks are closed, as are grocery stores, adding even more pressure to find a safe route out of Sudan. Omar.
All right, Adrian, thank you. Transit riders at one of Toronto's busiest subway stations experienced a lot of commotion and frustration today, all because of this. An apparent underground explosion caused by a faulty cable, forcing riders to evacuate and use backup shuttle buses.
It has been absolute chaos.
Service resumed right before rush hour after a 6-hour shutdown. There were no injuries. Thousands of Canadians are joining a growing call for an extension to Monday's tax deadline, fed up because of wait times triggered by a nationwide strike that also involves CRA workers. As CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver reports, there is progress, but still no deal.
Now entering its second week, enthusiasm on PSAC's picket lines appears mixed.
We're just going to hold the line until we need to.
I would like it to be done by this week, end of this week.
As workers marched across the capital's interprovincial Portage Bridge, the union, who says progress is being made, vowed to keep striking until their demands are met.
We had a negotiator come by and give an update, and when people knew about the process, when they weren't flying blind, morale went way back up. People are excited to escalate.
The longer the strike continues, the closer the May 1st tax deadline gets. With the CRA on strike, phone lines are either closed or wait times are hours long.
Due to labor disruptions, the business inquiries line is closed.
Accountant Eric Saumur says that's a huge problem, and his petition to push the deadline has received tens of thousands of signatures in just days.
There has been an incredible impact on low-income Canadians and on seniors around the country. It's similar to if you're having an exam and you just can't ask questions to your professor. And if you get the answer wrong, there's a penalty. There's a financial penalty, and people can't afford these penalties right now.
As of May 2nd, anyone who hasn't filed their taxes will have to pay a fee worth 5% of anything owed, and interest on top of that. Still, Ottawa says it has no plans to extend the tax deadline. The Revenue Minister says the work stoppage is not preventing anyone from filing online or on paper. And after 7 days, the NDP leader says it's time the Prime Minister got involved.
He should be showing up, taking this matter seriously, getting personally involved, and finding a solution.
Today, the CRA said relief from some penalties or interest charges may be granted on a case-by-case basis if the circumstances, Omar, are deemed to be beyond the control of an individual or a business.
All right, Annie, thank you. 1,800 pilots at WestJet are one step closer towards a possible strike after failing to reach an agreement with the airline. The two sides are now in a 3-week cooling off period, after which time the union says the pilots could take job action or face a lockout by WestJet management just before the Victoria Day long weekend. And unionized flight attendants rallied outside major Canadian airports today to speak out against unpaid work. The attendants say they aren't being paid while the plane is being boarded or for delays, despite being on the job and assisting with safety checks. And a passenger on a flight from Los Angeles to Sydney was arrested after Australian border security found a 24-carat gold-plated handgun in her luggage. The weapon was unregistered and she didn't hold an import permit. The American woman has been charged and could face up to 10 years in prison if convicted. Last night, we reported on a tragic number of overdoses in the Pas, Manitoba, and we described them as having fatal outcomes. While 6 people were taken to hospital after using a tainted supply of drugs and 1 man is on life support, none of the patients have died. CTV regrets the error. After the break.
20 meters, final approach.
Lost in space, a moon landing letdown. Plus,
we've been working hard to rehearse all the music.
A chance to sing for the king. The Artemis astronauts, including Canadian Jeremy Hansen, were in Ottawa today discussing their upcoming mission to fly by the moon as a Japanese company hoping to become the first ever private firm to land on the lunar surface faced a major setback. Here's CTV's John Venavelli-Rao.
We are only moments away from the planned touchdown.
In yet another reminder that getting to the moon is still really hard.
Everyone is awaiting
you could see plenty of tension today in the faces at Mission Control.
20 meters, final approach.
As Japan's iSpace attempted to become the first private company to soft land on the lunar surface. But things did not go as planned.
Only meters above the surface now.
While animation showed what it should have looked like, the craft touching down with a pair of Canadian components on board, instead in the final moments, contact was lost, controllers fearing the worst.
At this moment, we have not able to confirm successful landing on the lunar surface.
The Japanese probe was launched back in December with the hopes of doing what only the US, Russia, and China have accomplished, a landing on our lunar neighbor. During its voyage, it did beam back cool images, including video of the lunar surface, and this picture taken with a camera made by Ontario-based Canadensis. But it's now presumed the lander was lost.
We will keep going, never quit lunar quest.
iSpace already has plans to try again next year, and the company hopes to eventually contribute to NASA's Artemis program. This is the Artemis astronauts selected to fly around the moon were in Ottawa today. Canadian Jeremy Hansen and 3 Americans are slated to make their trip on board NASA's Orion spacecraft late next year at the earliest.
I mean, I've dreamt of this my whole life. I'm going to see the Earth from the perspective of the moon, and I just feel like I'm the luckiest human alive to get to go do this.
Meanwhile, despite today's commercial setback, the race continues with 2 private American companies up next. They'll try to land probes on the moon later this year. John Venevali-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
Still ahead, Ed Sheeran testifies in his own defense in a high-profile copyright case.
Darling, I will be loving you till we're 70. And baby, my heart could still fall less.
Singer Ed Sheeran faced the music in a New York City court today, testifying in a copyright case over his Grammy-winning hit, Thinking Out Loud. Sheeran told the jury that he would have, quote, been an idiot to perform a song copied from American R&B singer Marvin Gaye. Here's CTV's Melanie Nagy.
Pop superstar Ed Sheeran pushes through paparazzi to make his way into a New York federal court. The British singer-songwriter, who is known
I know it's a bad idea, but how can I help myself?
For his soulful lyrics and folky musical style, is now the focus of a high-profile copyright trial that got underway today.
So honey, now
the accusation is Sheeran's smash single, Thinking Out Loud. Copied the classic Marvin Gaye song, Let's Get It On. The famous tune, which topped the charts in 1973, was a collaboration between Gaye and Ed Townsend.
Good morning.
Townsend's family are the ones suing Sheeran, claiming his song copied the melody and rhythm of Let's Get It On.
I'm here for justice, protecting my father's intellectual properties.
The Townsends launched the suit, which includes Warner Music and Sony, back in 2017. When heading into court, their lawyer had this to say.
Like Marvin Gaye sang, let's get it on.
The trial is not the first involving Gaye's music. The R&B singer's song Got to Give It Up was at the center of an infringement case almost 10 years ago. A jury concluded that Robin Thicke and Pharrell Williams copied it with their hit Blurred Lines. The duo was ordered to pay millions in damages. As for Sheeran, he denies copying Gaye.
Well, me, I fall in love with you.
And stands by the originality of his music. Melanie Nagy, CTV News, Vancouver.
There are new revelations tonight from Prince Harry's legal battle with British tabloids. Court documents his lawyers filed show his brother Prince William privately settled for a, quote, very large sum with Rupert Murdoch's media group in the UK in 2020 over phone hacking allegations. With less than 2 weeks for the coronation, a celebrated British children's choir is adding finishing touches to their tunes. These young singers at Westminster Abbey, rehearsing for the big day, said they were excited for the royal event.
I feel very special that I get to see amazing moment in history.
King Charles will be crowned on May 6th. And that choir sounds great. After the break, what's behind the cone crackdown? Montreal has long been known for a certain je ne sais quoi, but also for what many say is a nuisance. CTV's Quebec Bureau Chief Geneviève Beauchemin on the city's pylon purge.
A drive through downtown Montreal can be a formidable feat, maneuvering around an obstacle course of orange cones.
It's part of the city's heritage at this point.
So common a sight, the construction staple is, half-jokingly, known as the unofficial symbol of the city. Behold this moment when Montreal's beloved Canadiens made the Stanley Cup Finals in 2021.
Yeah, Montreal is known for its cones.
Is that a good or bad thing?
It's a funny thing.
Not so funny to the Montreal business community. It has long said some cones are crucial, of course, for the safety of all, but the sea of orange is bad for branding.
With all those orange cones everywhere, what you create an impression that, you know, the downtown is a bit dysfunctional.
It commissioned a study and found up to a quarter don't seem to serve any purpose at all. Some are just abandoned and ignored.
Each of those cones cost $130. So imagine, it's a huge amount of money.
The summit was held in March to study the issue, and then there was this news article. It included past Google Street View photos that show cones parked near the entrance to a tunnel for 16 years. They're only in use for periodic night maintenance. Those cones vanished the very day the article was published, and a crackdown is now underway. The province says it has picked up dozens of cones and warned those lining construction sites inactive for over 72 hours will be removed. But cutting down on the number of cones won't actually get to the underlying issue, say many people here in Montreal, and that's the fact that there's so much construction in the city that seems to last forever. Still, the spring cleaning is designed to pluck some of the cones that have popped up to let the beauty of Montreal bloom. Geneviève Beauchemin, CTV News, Montreal.
And that is a snapshot of this Tuesday. Thank you for watching. We leave you now with some more of Harry Belafonte's music. Good night.
This is my island in the sun, where my people have toiled since time begun. I may sail on many a sea, her shores will always be home to me. Oh, island in the sun, built to me by my father's hand. All my days I will sing in praise of your forest waters, your shining sands. Oh, island in the sun, built to me by my father's hand. All my days I will sing in praise of your forest waters, your shining sands.